Hey everybody, it's Katie from the Board Game Mechanics, and I think I've made you wait long enough for my top 10 games of all time. Now, I know that I snuck in like a 10A last week because I had totally forgotten somehow to include Tanto Cuore in my list, which you all know that I really love. So this week I'll do another 10, but it'll be my top 10 games. You might notice a pattern, a lot of Euros, a lot of really ugly artwork. But I would play these games all day, every day, play it with one group, turn around and play it with somebody else. I'll try not to be long-winded about them because I love them so much and I just want to talk about them. But let's see if you guessed correctly what my top 10 are. My number 10B is by our good friend designer, Uncle Vital, and that is the Gallerist. My number 11 was Lisboa, which I do really enjoy, but the Gallerist was actually my introduction to Vital Lacerda. And this game, like the unique theme, I love that. And like with all Vital games, I see the action I want to do, and then I have to think about all the steps that I need to do in order for me to even be prepared to take that action. But like with all his games, generally one action triggers several other bonus kind of things, so you can get a lot done in one turn. Really thinky, but really interesting, very thematic. I just love the Gallerist. So that's my number 10, the Gallerist by Vital Lacerda. My number 9 has completely terrible artwork compared to what Eno Toole did for the Gallerist. But it's about dressmaking, and that is Rococo. This game, I know they just recently had a Kickstarter for the deluxe, defied, gorgeous art version, and I wanted it so bad. But it definitely exceeded Jason's $50 rule, so we have the Old and Busted, which is still a great game to play. That's why it's my number 9. The way you're using cards to decide how you're going to take the turn, so there's almost a deck building element, but not. I always feel like there's so much I want to do, and then decide how do I prioritize that. I make the dresses. Do I want to sell them for money? Because money is pretty key in this game. Or am I trying to build my set collection? I don't know if it's set collection, more like area control, which I normally don't like. But it's fairly minor in this. Having dresses on certain tiers, having those dresses made by masters, which makes them more valuable, buying fireworks or musicians or other things that have to do with like this ball. Lots of different things to think about, but just a really fun, kind of challenging worker placement through cards. So that's my number 9, Rococo. My number 8, another hideous box. But that is Marco Polo. Marco Polo is just a really great game. The best part for me, well, I love the little cubes that you have to get, and you've got camels and like just different things that are happening with it. Is this one? No, this isn't camels, Katie. Yes. Yeah, you have camels. I was right. It's been a long time since we played this, which is sad because I do really love this game. And the group of designers, several Italian designers that we really love. And it's just, again, for me, there's so many different ways to win in this. Do you want to follow and go through all the different towns on the map and leave settlements and make points that way? Are you fulfilling contracts and then getting the most that you can out of them? Just lots of different things to do, and your awesome player power kind of dictates a little bit of what would really be most beneficial for you. And those player powers, again, everyone seems so good, but they're all so good, so it's not like one is, oh yeah, you have to have Marco Polo, or it's not that. They each have something really good, and then that kind of helps you kind of funnel how you're going to play the game. So fun. Yes, artwork's hideous, but there's fun little bits inside. There's using the dice, decide where you're going to go. Do you have to pay extra to go someplace someone else has already gone? That tightness of the board, that's so great. So that's why it's my number 8, Marco Polo. My number 7, I love the gameplay, yes, but what drew me in was the theme, because as some of you may know, I'm an English professor and I love Shakespeare. Oh, I've loved Shakespeare for as long as I can remember. I was a young girl. I was a freshman in high school, and during one of our classes we were reading Romeo and Juliet, and we each had our parts, and you got to read when your assigned part came up. And our teacher threw a fit or something and said, well, I hope you can figure this out for the test next week. And then sat down and like read a book because he was mad at us. I don't know, we were talking or we're being freshmen. We were being 14. And it was my part to read next. So I read my line and people just follow suit like you do. And then I stopped before one of my lines. I said, well, does anybody know what's happening here? And I said, no, I have no clue. And so I started to teach Shakespeare at 14. And so Shakespeare has a special place in my heart. But this game is so good. Like, you see all the characters from the Shakespearean plays, and you bid on what you're going to do on your turn. So you're trying to really outfit your Shakespearean play. So what actors are you going to get? Who's going to work behind the scenes? Who's going to costume? What's the set going to be like? Yeah, it's just little chits or little circles for costumes. Nothing super crazy, but making those decisions and deciding what you're gonna like forego. There's some tracks that you need to move up on at certain points in the game. So when are you going to take an action to actually move on the track instead of doing something else that you really want to do? Lots of great choices, and again, lots of ways to win and get points. And that's why I love Shakespeare. It's my number 7. My number 6. A great game, also with some tracks a little bit, more like towers, is Lorenzo Il Magnifico. I like a good engine builder. Much like I feel like a good deck is almost a really well-built engine, I love engine builders. So as you're deciding which cards you're going to draw from the tower, are some of them going to go into your engine that you get to run every so often. Again, there's like a faith track that you have to be up on certain points, or you get in trouble with the church and they're going to excommunicate you. And so some of those losses are really great and you cannot afford to tick them off. Other times you're like, oh, I could live with that. And so you worry about other things because your worker placement is so tight in this. Everyone has the same numbers on the dice to use. And then you have to decide, where are they going to go? And you've got like one idiot cousin that your mom made you hire, and he can't go by himself. So you got to help him out. So you got to get some other workers. So getting those extra apprentices, where are you sending the dummy guy this time? How do you want to spend your dice? Making sure you're up on the military track so you can get certain cards that you want from the certain like towers. I think that's what they are thematically called. I don't know. Certain towers. Lots of stuff to pay attention to. But I love the tightness of this. I love that, like, you're duking out for spots, and if someone takes your spot, you're like, okay, can't do that. What am I going to do instead? I really wanted that card. It would work perfect in my engine. Can't do it. What am I going to do differently? So it really causes you to not be so set in a strategy, because you're going to have to adapt and adjust. And I love working with that kind of versatility, that flexibility that lets me kind of explore what my brain can do and what the game can do. So that is my number 6. Yes, my number 6, Lorenzo Il Magnifico. All right, now for the top 5. And just looking at the stack of games, I wish I could play them right now. Actually, Jason's not here. He's at band practice, so I couldn't really play them by myself. And really, I'm doing this video to avoid the pile of dishes that I have out there in the sink. But don't tell Jason, that's what I'm doing instead. So my number 5. Love this game. I love the theme, again, because I'm a literature person. And I can't get enough of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. So my number 5 is Merlin from Queen Games. The Rondel is interesting. I don't necessarily love Rondel games, but I like the way it's done here. And then the Arthur expansion I think is really great too. It's just more of a good thing, in my opinion. Again, you're saying, okay, I have these invaders to fight off, so I got to make sure I'm prepared for them. I also am kind of, which I don't like, there's a small area control sideboard that you want to make sure you're getting some stuff out there. For me, I don't care about it that much, but I should probably more. In the Merlin expansion, you're also collecting these triptychs So you want to have some, you can't have the least because that's going to set you back. You want to have influence in different areas to get points for that. Lots and lots of stuff going on. Really, for me, like tactile fun. Like, yes, it's a lot of cardboard, but I like that there's banners, and you've got your little people, like different people. I've got my shield maiden. I've got my forger, like all these different people that you get to use that are yours. There's so many player pieces that you feel like you're kind of operating your own castle, your own army, whatever, which is really great. And then you're using your own dice, and then you decide how and when you're going to use them. And I love that there's different ways to mitigate that dice rolling, because yeah, dice hate me for sure. Anyone in my D&D group will tell you, if Katie can whiff and roll a 1 on an attack roll, she's going to do it first encounter every time. It always happens. I'll roll like a natural 20 for initiative and then a 1 to attack. It's just the way it is. In Merlin, if I really need that 5, there are different powers in the different kind of colors, these areas. I don't know, you can't see them there, but on this side, there's these like banners that have special, that give you special powers. So you can flip the dice over, you can move counterclockwise, you can shoot across the board, like all these really great things that allow you to mitigate that dice roll. So I feel like on every turn I can do anything I want, and that's the problem. There's so many things to do, so many things I want to accomplish. And then in both the base game, there's Merlin, where everyone is moving Merlin around with their particular Merlin colored die. And then in the expansion, everyone's moving Arthur around with the Arthur die. And so you're like, okay, do I want to jump in and use that die first because it's exactly where I need him to be? Or do I want to wait and see if somebody else can get him into a better position for me to use mine? So many really cool things. Dice, worker placement kind of ish, in that nice rondel format. My number 5 is Merlin. My number 4 is a new game to me this over 2019. And I had never heard about it. Jason's like, oh yeah, I got a review copy for this game. I can't believe it, we got it. And I'm like, this sounds weird. This game rocked my world. Hence why it's number 4 on my list. And that is, the beefy box of Trismegistus. Normally I'm a theme girl. I love a good theme, one that I can understand and immerse in. I don't really feel like I understand the theme of Trismegistus. It's that whole alchemy kind of thing. That I don't really care about necessarily, even though it does have a lot of like background and literature and things. As far as the game theme goes, it's okay. But the play of this is really great. In some ways, it reminds me of a Vital Lacerda game, where if I take an action, you can gather certain resources that allow you to play them and then piggyback off my action. So you're always engaged, you're always seeing what you can do, how you can maximize both your turn and other people's turns, which I think is really great. You roll to see how many of the elements are available, because you can have too many and you don't want too little. And then you can decide, okay, am I going to transmute all these things to gold, which is points, or do I want to get some other things to fulfill some of these goals? Wow. I haven't played this enough. Even I've only had a couple plays of it, but I am hooked. So I would definitely say let's try Trismegistus as my number 4. In a sort of similar vein, at least in the fact that you have a player board where you're placing things into it, my number 3 and my number 4 are somewhat similar. And my number 3 is Newton. This game is dope. Again, I feel like there's a lot of different paths to victory with Newton, because there's so many different things going on. You can move through this knowledge track where you're acquiring knowledge and moving to get these different things. You can work and move up through your work, which allows you, there are different ways to get points. You can move through the map and study in different places, get points that way. I like to acquire, like fill in books in my library, and then you get row bonuses, column bonuses. And when all those things start firing, it's like a well-oiled machine. And that really turns me on in the game. When I can do the legwork, first couple rounds, I'm setting the pieces up, and then round 3 kicks in. And I'm like, oh yeah, I got a bonus here and a bonus here. I'm gonna get an extra one of those cards. And things start really flowing. The neat thing also with Newton is that in choosing your action, you play a card that has that action on there. And sometimes it'll give you a bonus as well. And so then you're trying to decide, when am I going to take new cards? Because you have to tuck and basically get rid of one card each round. And so you don't want to get rid of the only card that does a certain action, because then you'll never take that action again unless you are drafting that card. But in drafting a card, you're not doing something else, which there's so many things to do. Again, I think that that's something that I really like in a game, is it's like a smorgasbord, not the Borg, resistance futile, smorgasbord of choices, of actions. I mean, yeah, some of them are limited, based on where I am and who's there and how far can I get. But I have the choice. And so it's deciding what's the best action for this round. And I love that kind of thinking. So that's why number 3 is Newton. My number 2, a much prettier game actually than the past several, although Merlin's not bad. My number 2 climbed very quickly. It's only a couple years old. This game is amazing. And it doesn't hurt that I win it fairly often, so that also makes me like it more. My number 2 is my husband's number 1 game, and that is Coimbra. And again, Coimbra has the ability for you to build an engine, because when you're drafting your cards, you can get ones that stay with you and help you they trigger every round at a certain point in the round. You also have the ability to get cards that will help you towards in-game points. So you want to collect certain ones, and when you can have them kind of pair off each other, that's the sweet spot. And that's where I love this game. You can move around the city and get bonuses for moving around this city area. I'm actually looking at the back of it to see what it looks like. You're moving up tracks, and you want to kind of keep up on those tracks, because you get points for being close or being the highest up on the track. It's colorful too. Oh, I love the beauty of it. Also, it scales really well. Jason and I traditionally play heavy Euros at 2 because your turns come quicker, and we can speed through any of my top 10 games probably in an hour or so, hour and a half at the most, because we're just back and forth taking our turns and it speeds through it. Coimbra is not disappointing in that sometimes at 2, a game just isn't challenging. I mean, looking at my games for the top 10, I guess they're all kind of challenging in the way that the heaviness of them. But when you can go to any space and you don't really have competition for it, sometimes it feels a little cheap. Coimbra has this great mechanic where when you're placing dice to take cards at the beginning of a drafting phase, there are dummy dice that go out to make it more difficult for you. And they'll pick first before you, even if you have the same number. And they always get in the rows that I want and just piss me off, because I don't want to pay extra to take the card I want because I don't necessarily have that money. But I sure as heck don't want that stupid dummy player to take it. And that extra tension to where it's not just me battling the person that I'm playing, but also there's someone else involved that's changing the dynamic. That's really ingenious. And that's part of why Coimbra is my number 2 game. Now, if you have listened to the podcast at all, if you have seen my other videos, I have done some Facebook Lives about my top 100 before. My number 1 game should not be a surprise to you. I have loved this game since I played it for the first time, and I don't even know how I got introduced to it. Maybe I watched Rado play it, which we do. Rado runs through on about everything. My number 1 game. I need some drums. It's Grand Austria Hotel. Grand Austria Hotel has everything I love in the game, except maybe good art. I mean, it's okay. It's just a delicate balance in this game that you want to get customers. You want them to stay in your hotel. And so then if they're customers, you have to make sure that you fulfill their orders. Do they want coffee? Do they want wine? Are they going to have cake? And then while you're filling that, you want to make sure you have rooms that work with them and they're open. And then you can close them. And then there's also a track where, you know, there's always government oversight, and they're going to come in, they're going to slap you around if you're not up to par. So you got to keep that track in mind. And how are you doing on that? Putting customers in rooms gives you certain bonuses. There's employees to be had. And all this is powered by the dice that are rolled at the beginning of each round. This is great at 2 because it is that snake turn order. So when you have more people, first player tends to wait forever to come back around for a second turn because you get two turns each round. But at 2, it's first player, second player takes their second action, goes back to the first player. Pretty quick. But that means that like the actions are really key. And in rolling the dice, you're like, oh, I need to open rooms. Well, maybe only 1 die came out for the number to open rooms. And you're like, oh, okay, how can I make that number bigger? Can I deal with just 1 room? Can I go after a different customer because maybe I have a different color room? Can I employ somebody who will help me open rooms faster? And then there's always a struggle to have enough money to do these little extra actions to move stuff from your kitchen down to your people that are waiting. Wow. It's so good. It's my favorite game. It really is. I would play this all time, anytime. And the one time I've lost this game was on a live stream, which I'm still salty about. I need to redeem myself. I'm trying to get over it. But this game, even then, I don't feel like it steered me wrong. Luciani and Gigli, such good, that Italian designing kind of conglomerate. So great. This game is the standard for me for a game that I'll really enjoy. So that's my number 1, Grand Austria Hotel. There you have it, everybody. Katie's top 100 games of all time. Now, this year we got Pret-a-Porter, and that didn't come in time, I don't think, unless I snuck that one in. Wingspan, I did not get that until later. So that would definitely feature my top 100. And I am definitely a person that's just moved by wins. So it depends on how I'm feeling when I do my top 100, what I've played recently, what kind of experiences really stick in my mind about a game. But my top 25 are pretty predictable. So what have I missed? What's something that you wanted to see? And did you guess my top 10? So let's review. My number 10, Vital Lacerda, The Gallerist. Number 9, Rococo. So great. Number 8, Marco Polo with those awesome player powers. Number 7, Shakespeare. Oh, Shakespeare. To be or not to be? That is the question. Oh, I could just go on to whole Hamlet soliloquy. My number 6, Lorenzo, Il Magnifico. My number 5, Merlin and the Rondelles. Ooh, it's the Shondells. That's Tommy James. My number 4, Trismegistus. So great. It seems overwhelming complex. Once you get it, it's like butter. My number 3, Newton. My number 2, Coimbra. And finally, my number 1 game of all time, Grand Austria Hotel. So, hope maybe I introduced you to something you might like. If you like my taste in games. If you don't, sorry. I'm open and I'm learning to play new games all the time and trying them out. If you say, oh, you like that game? Here's a game I think you should play. Leave it in the comments. I've mentioned the podcast a couple times. If you haven't listened to the podcast, please find us on any of the services where you listen to your podcasts. The Boardgame Mechanics is there. We're released every week on Friday mornings. We'd love to have you listen. Join our Facebook group, The Riveted, which is like our private group. It's really not hard to get into. Just send us a request. Even if you don't answer the question about what game you want to be playing, we'll let you in. Message us, subscribe down below, comment down below. I love to hear what you guys have to say in my videos. Thank you so much for being awesome. And thank you for hanging in there with me for my top 100. I've been Katie from Boardgame Mechanics. Keep gaming.